I'm going to talk about Frank Randall.
Oh yes, that's
Lancashire
right.
comedian. He was actually he was born in Wigan.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, he was indeed. And that's his. The reason I got involved was through something called the Cuthbert Club, which was run by somebody who I knew called C.P. Lee, who'd been quite famous in the 70s for his band, which were called what was it called? Alberto y los Trios Paranoios.
Okay.
He used to play at the Lamplight Club in Chorlton, amongst others. But with a couple of other people, we went on the Cuthbert Club on their annual pilgrimage to Blackpool, the cemetery in Blackpool, near Blackpool, where Frank Randall is buried, as you can see there. This is just about a minute from the recording of that.
Oh, there we are.
A quick rundown of the day's activities and some important announcements. In case of fire, exit that way. That's very good. We will be conducting this ceremony at a height of approximately ground zero, and on with the show. When we finished here, we usually traipse over to Norman Evans to have a little word on the garden wall. If anybody remembers where Norman is, I think. Yeah, good. Then it's make your own way back to Blackpool Promenade. We've suggested people go and have a look at the comedy carpet. It's really good. It's excellent, and the gods are still smiling on us, so it's well worth having a look while it's not raining. Then we're convening at the pier around about 2 o'clock, North Pier Theatre at the far end, where we're going to have a film show at 2:30 this afternoon of 3 Frank Randall shorts, Full House, Bella's Birthday and Randall and all that. And now it behooves me to give Frank his annual drink. Yes. Hurrah! Somebody said earlier, looking around at you lot, there's not much point in some of these going on.
They also, we also went to the wall, which is part of Norman Evans' grave. Does anybody remember Norman Evans, the comedian?
Yeah.
yes, I do. Yes.
He was dressed up as a woman and hanging over the garden wall, talking to his neighbour.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I thought he was great. I like all the old Lancashire comedians. There's something so from another era about it that I really, really like. But anyway, so that was the trip we took to Blackpool. I think it was in 2012, something like that. And C.P. Lee, Chris Lee, who I knew, who was the guy who started up the Cuthbert Club. They did all sorts of weird things like that. He died just at the beginning of COVID. And his partner Pam has finally arranged a showing of a film that they always used to go. One of the Cuthbert Club outings was to see Hell is a City. Do you remember that? The Hell is a City. It was. I'll just show you the intro, which is about a minute long from it. It works.
Caught him yet, sir?
Hello, Devery. No, they haven't caught him.
I think it'll break your heart when someone else covers Don Starling.
Oh,
Donald Pleasance was Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasance, Billy Whitelaw.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. Anyway, they've got a special showing of it.
Yes.
We're having a showing of Hell is a City, in which they're going to talk about Chris, because he died and it was his favourite film. And we're going to have some drinks available at the bar before and after the performance. So that's really something to have. And that's on Monday, 25th of July. Frank Randall, he's a very unusual character in that I don't think, do any of you actually remember him or remember talk of Frank Randall?
Oh, yeah, I do remember the name, yes.
Yes.
You remember, Bernard, when you were asking me to look at plays?
Yeah.
In Trevor Griffiths, who is also a Manchester man, his play The Comedians, Frank Randall is mentioned, and also the tradition of the Lancashire comedians you referred to.
Oh, right.
And, yeah, and he's. I wonder whether he was a significant figure in terms of Trevor Griffiths as a comedian who represented some left working class spirit of comedy.
He was always framed with George Formby because he was popular at the same time, and between them they kind of ruled Blackpool. Blackpool had millions of people every year visiting, and he always used to have a show at the end of the pier, one of the piers, and it was sold out. He was earning, quite a lot of money at that time.
Yeah.
He was also spending it. He was not very good with money. He also drank too much, and he got in trouble for police for his what they said was obscenity, and it ended up with it said he did it, but he didn't actually get around to doing it. He was going to hire a plane and drop toilet rolls on Blackpool, but he didn't get around to doing it. So he was definitely anarchic, but his humor it's no means clean, Derek. I would not say he comes over as a feminist. Let's put it that way.
No, but he was a challenge to society. That the anarchic bit made him a challenging original comic. I mean, he compares it with someone like Max Bygraves, who's very safe, or George Formby. George Formby was a very safe comic.
He could be naughty, but he was nice.
but Frank Randall was idiosyncratic and challenging, to the mainstream. Yeah, I mean, at least in Trevor Griffiths' mind.
Yeah, I've got a short clip from him just to give you an impression of this is from a series that was made in the 60s, I think, about transgressive comics.
Frank Randall was a comedian from Wigan. He was the most raucous, irrepressible, terrifying figure, actually, as a man. He was a monster. All the mirrors in his dressing room, either with his empties or with a gun from his collection of Luger pistols.
Randall pushed the coarse humour of the music hall to new levels of anarchic comedic invention. Frank, on stage, was wild.
It's said that he had 9 different sets of false teeth for different occasions, and he kept them in jam jars in the dressing room. And he had papier mâché ones, which when he went on stage, as soon as he got heckled, he'd fling them at the audience.
Randall created characters to play on taboos, like the still sensitive subject of drink. One of his most rude creations was the hiker, bottle of beer in hand, belching and farting.
All the time he's drinking from a great big bottle marked Allslop's Ales, and he would belch, gigantic belches.
Allslop's.
And his famous catch of phrase was, well, I up some stuff last night. I sent some of this to be analysed, and I got a telegram back saying your horse has diabetes.
And Randall got laughs from the biggest taboo of all, death.
I were at funeral the other day. A little lad come up to me. He said, "How old is he?"
I said, "I'm 82. He said, "I don't think it's much use thee going over there."
And the character would get more and more obstreperous. They were very cold that morning. Limousine couldn't leave crematorium, so we had to use the ashes to get the wheels going, etc.
Frank Randall was rude because he refused to behave. He took that tradition of working class innuendo of the celebration of drunkenness and bad behaviour and pushed it to an extreme that nobody else at that time really matched. People often compare him to George Formby.
Every year when summer comes round, off to the sea I go.
George Formby was a comparatively respectable working class lad who had cheeky little songs and cheeky little jokes. Randall wasn't cheeky. Randall was filthy.
Randall's flair for filth made him the target of a moral crusade, conducted by those eager to put a stop to the loose morals they thought had flourished during the Second World War. But Randall continued to defy all attempts to censor him.
Randall, you know, the working man's comic, who I think was earning £1,000 a week, you know, all those thousands of years ago.
Frank Randall was a very unique entertainer. He was known as the King Twist of Blackpool. You could, in a way, say that he owned Blackpool. He, in fact, owned the hearts of a massive amount of the people that came here.
By the way, what is your name?
Just have a guess.
I should say Frozen Fanny.
You almost amuse me. You do really.
Why isn't that your name?
Well, I don't mind, if you like it that way.
Oh, I like it anyway. How about a dance with a gentleman? Huh?
Bring him to me.
I mean me.
You?
Yes.
Oh, dear. I could almost laugh.
Oh, I wouldn't do that to you, name out of your stockings.
He had his own yacht moored off the North Pier, the Nomura, which Laurel and Hardy sailed around the bay with him in that and had to be brought back by the what would pass for air sea rescue at the time, because Frank liked to drink and couldn't quite skipper his own yacht. But at the peak of his game, which was the 1940s, every summer season was played here in Blackpool, sellout houses. He was billed as star of stage, screen and magistrate. Randall and Formby are kind of the yin and yang of British comedy. Now, the one thing about Randall, which in those days would set you back, because he was illegitimate. And Beryl Formby, who had pretensions, loathed and despised illegitimate people. They weren't proper. So Jack Taylor was going to put a big show on in Blackpool, and Formby and Randall were sharing the bill. I think this was the Tailor-Made show. And Beryl stormed into Taylor's office and said, "There's no way that my George is going on a bill with that mongrel."
You got that Randall fella? Where the hell's the Hitler? I did it good for myself.
That gives you a feel for him, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
He comes over as a fascinating, intriguing character, I think. And
on the naughty side.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, with Frank Randall, he was in quite a lot of films. Not that them were very successful. His popularity declined in the 1950s with the rest of those old comedians as variety itself disappeared. And because of his alcohol abuse, he was also made bankrupt in 1955 by the tax authorities, and he died in Blackpool of gastroenteritis in 1957. And that's why he's buried there as well. So he's I don't think he'll be forgotten. There's a core of people who are absolutely dedicated to him. There's a Frank Randall Appreciation Society on Facebook, for example, which is very, very interesting stuff. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you because it's sort of I do like the old comedians, but I never went into researching him like that before, and you always find out more about people when you look into it a bit more.
Did he do much radio?
Don't think so. No, he did work with quite famous people as well. Like Roy Castle was in his own show, which was called Randall's Scandals.
Right.
And also, the last film he made was with Diana Dawes. Did you see the photograph of him with Diana Dawes?
Yes,
Yeah.
I noticed her. Yeah.
It's similarly with Chris Lee and Alberto y los Trios Paranoias, which I think is a fabulous name. I always like the name. He died too young as well, but he was also a very, very interesting guy who was very much into a lot of all that stuff and did a lot of research and became a lecturer at Salford University in it eventually as well. But yeah, that was a bit sad that they died. But Alberto y los Trios Paranoias appeared once with Police as their support band. And I think he also had David Bowie at one time. It's one of those things. They never made it, but the people who were with them did. But that's the way of the music business, isn't it? Really. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on Frank Randall. And I've got whilst you're talking, I just have got something else that you might be interested in relation to this. You mentioned about the Wilson, Keppel and Betty, and this is a rare piece of colour film. I've never seen colour film of them before. They are just so weird, aren't they? And and the fact that you see them on grainy film sort of adds to it a bit. It makes you feel, what on earth? Where are they? They were in Wolverhampton doing that. It was a home movie made by somebody of them doing it. And apparently, the Betty who was with them changed. They ran through several Bettys. I don't know what happened to them. I didn't do much research on them, but I just came across that. But I think the all those Lancashire comedians, Norman Evans and whatever, they were just brilliant, and long may they survive in people's memories as well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to the celebration in July about it. Yeah,
I think pantomimes encouraged them too. You know, they were leads in them in the pantomimes. So it took up a few months of them.
You're quite right. Pantomimes were incredibly important, weren't they, as an income for comedians and actors? Yeah.
Yes, they gave them some work for several months of the year.
And they're still really popular, which is fabulous, I think.
Yes, it is.
Because it's about as traditional as a form of acting as you can get. And I used to like the way they advertise them. You know, as somebody as seen on TV, and you've said, I've never heard of them. Yeah. No, I love pantomime.
Yeah, so they'd be doing the piers in the summer and pantomimes in the winter, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to be cut off any minute. Thanks, everybody.